in my bag. So soft and so tender. Daddy in the kitchen and he told me, son, listen. He said, you don't have to play the part that they wrote for you. You don't have to play.
Hello, everyone. I'm Rich Robbins. Welcome to another episode of Soft and Tender, where each week we explore Black fatherhood through conversations between the sons that they've raised. Our goal is to highlight the unique and universal aspects of love in Black families, showcasing how these fathers express love and care despite societal challenges, along with broadening our understanding of what fatherhood means and how that meaning can evolve. Before we dive into this week's discussion, let me introduce our guest this week. To my right, we have Emmanuel Edwards, owner and curator of the Goodt Vault. To my left, we've got Isiah, Thoughtpoet Veney, creative director and organizer. And to my far right, we've got CantBuyDeem, musician and designer. Fellas, thank you very much for joining me on this episode today. It is an honor to be in your presence, for real. You are all very talented and leaders in your own respect, and the fact that we can all come together and speak on these topics is important, and so I want to start off the conversation first by having you explain a little bit about who your primary father figure was growing up, and maybe we can do so by just saying one quick thing that we appreciate about that person, just to give the audience a little bit of insight of who they were. So, for example, my father is, his name is Kano. He is from the southwest side of Philadelphia, and one thing that I appreciate about him, he is a man of strong faith. And I don't necessarily follow in that exact same faith. I share some similarities with it, but I think what it's taught me to appreciate is believing in something bigger than myself and standing firm on that, right? So, Isiah, I'll pass it off to you. Who was your primary father figure growing up, and what's something you appreciate about them?
Yeah, man. My primary father was Dwayne A. Miller. Folks knew him as Miller Time. Man, I think one of the biggest things I appreciate from him is his love for music. I think that was something that I really wanted to connect with him more, because he was one of them dudes that would listen to smooth jazz, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. He would make cassette tapes with Blackstreet and Smokey Robinson and Janet Jackson. He tried to be young. Yeah. So I think that's probably where I get a lot of my love for music, particularly Chicago music, from now. So. Oh, yeah.
I definitely feel like my pops and your pops would be friends.
Probably.
That sounds exactly like my pops. Yeah. Deem, how about you?
Well, I didn't have any, honestly didn't have any male father figures growing up. My father figure was jointly my mom and my grandma. My mom, I appreciated her for just unwavering strength. It could be 100 people telling her she's wrong, and she would still hold on to whatever her point was. Yeah. And my grandma, honestly, my grandma was just like a player. She just got it. She just knew how to maneuver, how to talk to people, how to get her way. She was just real. Everybody in Chicago always talk about finesse. My grandma had a lot of it. Yeah. She had a lot of it, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Dope. My late father, Gabriel Anthony Edwards II, that was my guy. But I think the thing I appreciate about him the most is his creativity. My dad was an artist. He was a sculptor. He did all kind of stuff, so yeah. I appreciate that the most.
I like this question because I get to learn a little bit about y'all, but I see completely what I see how it has affected each one of y'all. Finesse, definitely. Creativity, obviously, right? Music, the love for music, obviously. So y'all are spitting images of these people that have raised y'all for real, So as I'm sitting here thinking about how I want to piece this episode together and the questions, I'm thinking, all right, what do we all have in common? And exploring y'all's work and even the brief conversations that I've had with you, whether that's in person or DM or something like that, this is a group of people who has had to accept and endure a lot of really tough lessons in life, right? And in a lot of ways prematurely, right? What is something that you've had to come to accept about your father or your father figure over time, right? So for example, my dad being the man of faith that he is, he's always going to put God first. no matter what. Even if that means like it's me and it's God, he gonna be like, sorry, son, I gotta go with what I believe in and what I think is bigger than us. You know, I've come to accept that about him, right? And I think in a lot of ways I love him for it, you know, even if sometimes I don't agree with it, right? What would that be for y'all? Something that you've come to accept over time, Manny? I'll pass that over to you.
That's a great question. I think giving my dad the space to be human, you know what I mean? Like parents, especially our parents, they're older, they grew up in a different time frame. They went through a lot of different stuff and they didn't have the tools or the resources to deal with some of the trauma that they went through. So I think for me, allowing my dad was allowing him just to be human, kind of lowering my expectations, you know? It makes him a real person, you know? Yeah,
that's interesting. So lowering the expectations, but not necessarily lowering the level of love.
Yes.
Right? Interesting. I like that idea of lowering expectations in the name of love.
Yeah.
Deem, how about you?
To piggyback off what you said, pretty much the same thing. You know, my grandma, she ran away from home at like 13 years old, which was, you know, the 30s or something, like 40s or something like that. It was like a crazy life, like a crazy life decision to make. So she did all of this stuff on her own. She was out here in the streets dealing with grown men and grown women at that age on her own. So finesse and like being a street person and like a gangster, that was like all she really knew.
Yeah.
So as a grandma, I feel like I just had to accept that, like, you know, certain ways that you would carry yourself with someone in the street, I had to kind of do that with my grandma. Like I couldn't tell her how much money I had. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. So I had to accept that about her. But I also knew that like that meant that she was still like that warrior for me too. You know what I mean? In that same way. And then with my mom, I would say the number one thing that I had to accept about her is that my grandma raised her and she had to fight against that her whole life. She was the baby. So she watched how it affected everybody else and she decided I'm gonna be a certain way and nobody's gonna tell me I'm wrong because I can't trust any of y'all's opinions. You know, I just had to accept that about her.
Yeah.
And like she was always right even when she was wrong. And I just had to be like, you know, you are right, and just do whatever I was supposed to do, whatever actually had to happen. You know what I'm saying? I just had to do that and just agree and just save the time.
That's some hardcore acceptance right there. Like if you know somebody else is wrong and you just like, I'm gonna just let you be wrong and I'm gonna just go do the right thing right now. You know, I definitely am guilty of having to almost like prove my case with everybody, and that's so exhausting over time. So like kudos to you, bro.
Okay,
for like,
you got it.
Right, just like you got it. You got it there. I'm gonna let you get it. I'm gonna be over here. Yeah. Isaiah, how about you?
Man, honestly, because my dad passed in 2022, so some of our last conversations was him, like he was there, but I never knew him. And so like that used to really press me because it gave me a lot of like issues where I didn't think I was good enough, because I was like, yo, like I wanted to like build with him because my grandma adopted us, me, my brother and sister. So like we were in a space where we knew our parents weren't there. And so my dad, he was, he just didn't know how to show love like that. And so, but he always had a way of being like, yeah, you real fancy, or you be trying to do the wave, because I used to have waves when I was in high school. So he used to call me Mr. Hollywood, and he used to like tell me like, yeah, you know, you going to Harlan, which is a CPS high school. He was like, yeah, you ain't gonna really be able to do much because you went to this high school. And so I had to learn that his way of showing love was just very different. You know what I'm saying? And my grandma spent her life trying to make me not look at the negatives and look at his positives. And I think I just started learning how to embrace his positives, because him not being here, it definitely affects my grandma the most. But it's like, I feel like I got what I needed from him in like his last days. Like we smoked weed together. Like he got a chance to read my Chicago Reader collaboration. He got to read the article on the artist Heavy Crowns, which I was like, Heavy Crowns reminds me of him a lot, because he used to wear like shades on some like Bernie Mac shit, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, I just learned that I really idolized him. And I realized that he wanted to show love in the way that he knew I could receive it, but he just didn't know how.
Man, you know, that I appreciate you sharing that with us, and it makes me think of closure and the lack of closure and how crazy that could drive us sometimes when we don't have any closure with somebody. And this whole conversation is really grounded in grief and acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
How has that lack of closure for you affected your ability to love, or has it affected your ability to love at all?
Honestly, I'm still figuring that out. I feel like since he passed, I feel like one of the things that keeps me going with what I do is that he understood what I was doing. Like, he understood my love for community and organizing, and he understood my love for music and photography. And he also understood that I didn't have a lot of options to begin with. You know what I'm saying? So him being who he was, once he finally acknowledged that I really did look up to him, you know, he tried to give me as much game as he could, but I think my grandma always taught me how to love. Like, she always taught me how to be present, even when he wasn't, you know, able to accept his blessings, which was, you know, me, my brother and sister, and him and her being in his life and stuff. And so, you know, just talking to her, you know what I'm saying, lately, and like her really expressing like, yo, like, I have to create, because she's an artist, a legendary one at that. But like, nowadays she just creates because she really feels for him. And I be just sitting there like, Mama, I know you love him, but it's time to move on. You know what I'm saying? It's time to, you know, just, you know, figure out what this happiness look like for you, because I've been trying to do that. And so I would say I'm learning how to love more.
Hi, I'm Darius Hillman. Joining me on the next edition of In the Arena, educator and former NFL pro Sean Cattouse. Take a look.
I'm getting out here needing to go to work, and I'm like, man, I've never, it's like the surreal world. I guess I've never really been a part of it.
Join the conversation Tuesday at 7 p.m. on CanTV Cable Channel 19 and streaming on cantv.org and the CanTV Plus app. Experience the power of community television.
I'm in my bag. So soft and so tender.
You know, there are some things with the passing of your father, especially recently, y'all had that final moment, but I would just assume that there were other things that could have, you know, had that perfect bow tied on it, you know, prior to it, to his passing. And I've definitely lost people as well, prematurely or just way before I thought I was going to lose them.
I'm back
right?
now. I'm back. I remember what I was going to say too.
Yeah.
It's two people, so I'm gonna start with my grandma because it's the quickest and easiest one. I don't feel like there was ever really a need for closure. She passed away. She had a stroke when I was about 13 or 14, and then she had another one, and she passed away. But she was extremely candid and honest with me the whole time, and she was the only person in my family that I was candid or completely honest with at that age. So I don't think that there's any closure necessary. I just feel like that was my G, you know what I'm saying? And like, she's not here anymore. She would be so proud of me. And I wish I could get her opinion on some things sometimes. And as far as the situation with my mom, being that she was always right, she like designed this life plan for me to be like an architect or a lawyer, and clearly not doing that. So we butted heads a lot, and we didn't speak for like some years till she got sick and I was the person to take care of her. So I would say the lack of closure brings me a lot of pain, because I feel like a lot of our last conversations was us arguing and like butting heads and shit, and I should have just been enjoying that time. I mean, we did do that as well too. But you know, we spent a lot of time. She was in a position where she was willing to listen, which had never happened. So we talked about a lot of things that just aren't important in hindsight. You know what I'm saying? So I think that as far as closure, I don't think I need necessarily closure, but I feel like that's the part of the situation that lingers with me, that feels like it's unclosed, that bothers me on a regular basis.
And Manny, before you jump in on this, I want to just follow up. Has that had any effect on your ability to love, or have you noticed any kind of ripple effect from that lack of closure, or from that lack of, you know, how has that affected your love life, your romantic life since?
Since then,
and actually, let me not even just romantic life, just love in general for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that process pointed out to me that I don't know how to love and that I wasn't loved like properly. So I started like the journey with like therapy, mental health and wellness and all of these things shortly after the passing. And I would say that it's helped me to intentionally do things and to love properly, like love the right way. Like, so I have to do it by giving like an example, you know?
Yeah.
I was parenting the way that I was being parented, which is like, sit down, shut up, stay in the child's place, you know? Yeah. But I realized like that wasn't effective for me. And in the conversations with my mom and everything that happened, I realized this is not serving me. It didn't serve her. It didn't serve my grandma either. Yeah. I have to do different things. So now, you know, I still punish my child, but it's like, instead of being like, it's like, you knew that wasn't finna go right?
Right.
What did you think was gonna happen? What do you think I'm gonna do next? Okay, now it's happening. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's like more restorative than
more
it is
restorative,
punitive.
more intentional, more of a, like it's instead of what is that, punitive, where it's just like, just a lash, right? It's like, we're gonna talk about what you did in detail and why it wasn't okay, and then you're gonna be punished.
Yeah,
you know?
That's a really, it's a really fascinating journey to hear from your relationship with your mother and grandmother, to how that evolved into therapy and your relationship with your daughter now. Thank you. Manny, how about you? And on the topic of closure, how has it been from your father's passing? Were you able to get closure in that situation? And then did that have any ripple effect on your ability to love, or how you recognize love or receive it, give it, etc.?
Quick question though for Isiah. When did you lose your father, if you don't mind me asking?
The last day I saw him was on Father's Day. And I think it was maybe a couple of days after that. He was on dialysis.
Okay.
The way he passed is still kind of like, no one kind of knows for sure. But like, I know he really wanted to show love to my grandma and my sister, because he did some things, you know what I'm saying? Like, he wasn't being the husband or the father that they needed. And when me and him talked in his last days, he talked a lot about like regret, and I just told him, like, you know, you had us as a family, and you know, I'm not gonna say like you did the best you could or you didn't, you know what I'm saying, but it's like, this is where we're at now. You can say sorry now. And my grandma she said before he left this world, he told her over the phone, like, he understood, you know, like loving a person through their mistakes, which is what we always tried to do for him. And so I think that's why I don't feel as like, I feel pain that he's not here, but I feel like me and him had an understanding. And I think that, you know, just going back to the love part, is like that I try to really reason or use that to figure out how to love, because I'm still figuring it out, but because he didn't know how. But it's like, his understanding is making me want to like continue that journey. So
For sure. I was just curious because I lost my dad in like May of 2022.
Oh, wow.
So we in that same area. I don't know, I thought it was interesting. I appreciate you sharing that. Because it's like, this is real stuff.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about earlier, I feel like relationships with fathers are weird, man.
Yeah.
But I feel like I got closure with my dad. Of course, there are so many other topics I wish I could have talked about, but the things that were highest priority, I feel like I did, because I lost my mom when I was 13. She had breast cancer. So I wasn't able mentally to process that, or I didn't have the tools to deal with that. But I think, thinking about my growth and everything like that, having that understanding of like feeling lost, now being an adult, like I was like more present.
Yeah.
I kind of realized, like, let me get everything off my plate so that I don't have any regrets. And I pressed my dad. For example, we did a trip to go see my grandmother, my maternal grandmother. We went to Des Moines, we drove there, we were in the car, and I waited for it. I planned it out, but I just asked him, like, I was raised with my mother, she raised us in Alabama from like I moved from Chicago when I was like 6. We're from the south side of Chicago. We moved to Alabama, much better place to raise a family. I didn't see my dad from age 6 to like 16. We spoke, but I'm like, the disconnect of talking and not seeing the person.
And phone calls probably,
you know,
too,
but,
like,
I mean,
not like FaceTime.
Yeah, like we spoke, you know, but it's just like, dude, I haven't seen you. Like, I was a kid, you know. So on that trip, I was like, why didn't you come visit?
Yeah.
I left it like that, and I was driving. He was sitting there. He was like, well, you know, I was in a weird position. I was too old to hire, too young to retire. I had all these things going on. I just let him talk till he didn't have anything else to say. And I let the silence do his thing. I just drove. But I wanted to like make a point, like, that's unacceptable.
Yeah.
You know, it's nice to be, you know, Christmas dad, you know, you Santa, birthday, but I had a lot of other stuff going on through the year that my mother had to shoulder, you know?
Yeah.
But I just wanted to make that point with him where he could like let the gravity of that silence in the moment sit.
Right.
And then, so
Wise choice, bro.
Yeah, and it felt good because I thought I planned that out. I was like,
not
I can't.
responding just leaves him to think like, yo, I just said all of this to a grown man who knows his bullshit.
Come on.
Yeah.
You know?
Look, I'm not trying to
sit with it.
Yeah.
I love my pops, but I wanted him to feel that. So what he did, he turned and just looked through the window.
Yup.
And I was like, got him.
God, let that
Cruising.
let
I'm
that
cruising,
sit.
but yeah, but that was like a big thing that I had to ask him. So I had to get that off my chest, and it felt good. So, and we talked about all other stuff, but that was like the one that was a gut punch.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to call him out, just so he could feel a little bit of what I felt.
Do you think he did?
I think he did. I mean, we got on a 4-hour drive.
Yeah.
I dropped
it or
nothing.
I dropped that bomb on you.
Yeah.
You ain't even looking at me. You looking out the window.
Yeah.
He felt it. I just, wanted to at least let it sit so he could understand, like, all right, let's be real going forward, So we had a good thing going until his passing.
On the next Hustle, Play, Love, I'm talking to Emmy Award-winning journalist and author Tamron Hall about her latest book in the Jordan Manning mystery series. And I'll explore how Chicago restaurants are reimagining soul food with Chef Quentin Love of the Soul Food Lounge and Jamie Gilmore of Lizzie J Cafe. Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. on CantTV, cable channel 19, or stream live on cantv.org or on the CantTV Plus app. Experience the power of community television.
I'm in my bag. So soft and so tender.
I really appreciate y'all opening up about the loss aspect of these. I do have my dad in my life, and there are times where I miss him even when I'm sitting next to him. And I don't know what that is. Like it's like a premature grief. I don't know if there's really like a term for it, But hearing the way that y'all unpack these last moments, or these impactful moments of like I am going to tell you what you did to me, and you got to take it. You got to sit there with it. That's powerful for me to hear as somebody whose father is present in my life. So thank you for learning me today, for real. Deem, you have a record, Now I Lay. In it you say, didn't have time to cope, lost so much, my family, my bros. I'm curious, how has y'all's approach to coping with pain been influenced by your relationship with your fathers or father figures?
For me, coping in my family, it looked like it didn't happen. Today's a new day. Let's forget that. It's not healthy, right? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And also the same way with my biological father. He was in my life up until I was like 13, but I don't really speak on him a lot because he was never a role model. I never wanted to be like this dude ever, you know what I'm saying? And he just disappeared. He like married some lady, adopted her kids. I have 2 sisters and a brother. They all have the same mom. And none of us like saw him on a regular basis, at all, or like barely ever. I remember from like 13 to like 16, that's like a large gap, Yeah. Even from then, it was like 9 to like 13. It's like a lot of large gaps in there.
Yeah.
So it was just like compartmentalization is just like a thing, I mean, you should compartmentalize things, but you can't compartmentalize people. You know what I'm saying? It's like, that's my son over there with that lady that thinks I'm an idiot. Like, I just can't, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't do that. So, but that's how I coped with things. It was just like, sweep it under the rug. Let's get drunk about it. Let's have sex about it. Let's go to a party about it. And then tomorrow it didn't happen. It's a new day. It's a new slate. But I'm gonna still see these people, and whatever I did or said to them is like still there, or whatever they did or said to me is still there. But it's just like, that was yesterday, new day. Anytime it ever popped back up, roll another joint, pour another drink. That was how I coped with things for a very, very long time. And now, just going through therapy, honestly, I just sit in it. You know, like my birthday is January 14th. My mom passed away on the 4th of January, and I buried her on the 13th. Normally, I would just get debaucherous on the 12th and the 13th, you know. And this year, I just sat at the crib with like 2 of my close friends and talked about like a lot of positive memories. We watched a lot of good movies and, you know, smoked and chilled. And, you know, I didn't do what I would normally do. You got to understand, all of my male role models were like my age now or like my exact same age, because like they were just cool. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So those were the things I learned. I was learning from like 30-year-old, 31, 35-year-old dudes who never had their dad and they never knew nothing healthy either. It was just like, get you some money, have you some sex, drink some of this.
Right.
And so after that, I just learned like I have to sit in it, go through it, and just let it happen. Like it's an emotion, it's there for a reason. It might be here for 2 or 3 days, but like this is a part of the journey. Trying to cut it off and sweep it under the rug and pacify it just means it's gonna come back later stronger. It's like shaving. You know what I'm saying?
It's like shaving, yeah. I feel like we got to like have like a part 2 to this episode or something like that, man. There's a lot to unpack here, but Isiah and Manny, I want to just ask y'all before we wrap real quick. What do y'all want people to walk away knowing about Black fatherhood?
Honestly, I really think it's just the ability to listen and to really like just check in. I realized that the dad I did have, like my mom and my dad truly tried to make sure that I tried to listen. Yeah. And it's like, I think with fatherhood, I think parenthood in general, but definitely fatherhood is like, the ability to listen is so imperative. I would say if anyone's trying to be a better person, let alone be a better father, it's like, just listen more.
Yeah. Yeah. Manny, how about you?
Briefly, I'll just say it's a complex thing. You know, this is generational. His dad was not there for him like that. But I think the biggest thing is to ask hard questions. If you can't verbalize it, write it down, send a letter. But don't carry someone else's drama. I didn't ask to be here. I'm gonna put it back on you. I'm gonna ask you some hard questions. You brought me here.
Yeah, even in the faults. Look, fatherhood is beautifully vast. It can span from biological relation to chosen family. Black fatherhood in particular is beautiful. It's had to endure generations of misunderstanding and mislabeling. We hope this conversation shed some light and brought more insight to your own relationships at home. Thank you for tuning into our Soft and Tender world today. You can continue the conversation by following us at Soft and Tender Series on Instagram and TikTok, and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Soft and Tender. Until next time, I'm Rich Robbins. Good night.
He said, you don't have to play the part that they wrote for you. You don't have to play the part. I'm like, how he do that twice? Why that boy so nice? Why he cuff the mic like a baby bite? So soft and tender. Bet he like that in any weather. Bet he only bite if he don't get it twisted. I be in the gym ready to box. Why would I not? Niggas out here creeping hard on the block. My pops taught me if you can't win the fight with your brain, you could definitely throw a hand.